Megalithic Monuments, Part 2. The Cheese Ring. The Cheese Ring on Bodmin Moor is one of the most exhilarating sights I have ever visited. It is located a short walk away from 3 nearby stone circles called the Hurlers. The legends associated with both seem to portray a conflict between the old religion, paganism, and the new, Christianity. In each case, the new religion won the battle, and the old ways slowly started to die out, or at least quietly hide beneath the surface. In local legend, the Hurlers were formed after a group of local men were turned to stone as punishment for playing the Cornish game of hurling on the Sabbath. The legend associated with the cheese ring, said to be a natural geological formation, concerns a stone-throwing contest which took place between the resident giants of Bodmin Moor, who were annoyed at the encroachment of saints on their territory. After the saints won the contest, the giants either converted to Christianity or left the moor. After visiting the Hurlers, I walked across the moor and climbed up onto the top of the granite tour where the cheese ring is located. And oh wow! Just like at the West Kennet Long Barrow, I was almost knocked off my feet by the powerful energy current surging through the site. It felt like a massive flow of vibrant energy coursing across the moor in both directions, more powerful than anything I had previously experienced. It was exhilarating in the extreme, and I started to realize that this current must be one of the major arteries of earth energy in the country. It was very much alive and kicking. It felt like the underlying hidden energies of our country were working quietly and powerfully to spread healing and nurture throughout the land. It is also located bang on the Michael and Mary ley lines. The 9 Stones. Although small and located right next to a main road, the 9 Stones stone circle near Winterbourne Abbas in Dorset is an intriguing, powerful site. When I visited it, I was struck by the realization that small stone circles, like the 9 Stones, are rather like substations on an electricity network, transforming, transmitting and distributing energy along Britain's earth energy grid. I once again realized that the encroachments of man over the centuries have done little to disrupt this network, despite many warnings to the contrary, and that our energy network is still very much alive and kicking. It may have been dormant for a while, for whatever reasons, or we may have lost our way and our ability to tune into the network, but it still works. This was an enormously comforting realization, and one which gives me great hope for our future. Kilmartin Glen. The Kilmartin area of Argyll is absolutely heaving with prehistoric monuments. Over 5,000 years of human history can be found in the valley, which is home to the most important concentration of Neolithic and Bronze Age monuments in mainland Scotland. There are more than 150 prehistoric monuments, incorporating chambered cairns, round cairns, cists, standing stones and rock carvings, as well as the Templewood stone circle. Arriving in the glen, I was struck by an almost overwhelming sense of historical continuity over the centuries. It was almost like a cradle, providing protection and nurture for the generations of people who had lived there throughout history and prehistory. Normally, I would expect to feel a buzzing of energy at a site like this, but Although it felt very peaceful there, I felt absolutely nothing. Why? The answer came to me when I reached the nether standing stones. The energy was definitely there, but dormant, sort of on hold, waiting for the right conditions and phase of the moon to be activated. And I was there at the wrong time. This was the first time that I knew with certainty that these sites are only active at certain times and under certain conditions, although the how and why still remain a mystery to me. My husband Steve taking a rest on the Netherlargy South Cairn after walking for what he considered to be an effing long way. It might be appropriate here to mention the fact that Steve is not a walker, but very supportive of my walking. He has always said, "You do the walking and I'll wait for you in the pub at the end of the day." The Swinside Stone Circle. Hurricane Gonzalo was raging at its worst when I visited this completely magical stone circle in Cumbria in October 2014, when Steve and I were staying in Barrow-in-Furness. I was hailed on, rained on, blown from here to kingdom come, but amazingly the sun came out when I finally reached the circle after a long walk. It is one of the 3 most important circles in Cumbria. The other 2 are Castle Rig and Long Meg and her daughters. It was difficult to gain any real impression of this circle, apart from one of exhilaration, because of the strong winds which were blowing me all over the place. Arthur's Stone, Herefordshire. When I was living in Herefordshire, I used to visit Arthur's Stone regularly because it was such a peaceful place and perfect for contemplating the ups and downs of my tumultuous life at the time. It was my sanctuary. Arthur's Stone is a Neolithic burial chamber located on a ridge overlooking the Golden Valley and the Wye Valley in Herefordshire. In common with many other ancient monuments in Western England and Wales, it is linked to the legend of King Arthur, who, according to local folklore, is said to have slain a giant there. The author C.S. Lewis is reputed to have been heavily influenced by the area when he was writing the Chronicles of Narnia, and it is thought that Arthur's Stone was the inspiration behind the stone table upon which Aslan the lion was sacrificed. Tomnaveri Stone Circle. I visited Tomnaveri with my sister in 2012. The Tomnaveri Stone Circle in Aberdeenshire is an example of around 99 recumbent stone circles, which are typical of the megalithic monuments found only in northeastern Scotland. They are characterised by having one large stone lying on its side, flanked by 2 upright stones, usually on the south or southwest arc of the circle. It was built around 4,000 years ago, and it has been speculated that, in common with other similar stone circles, it was intended to allow farmers in the area to plot the movement of the seasons. The Bartlow Hills. Yay, an almost prehistoric site right here in Cambridgeshire. The Bartlow Hills, possibly another one of Cambridgeshire's best kept secrets, originally consisted of 7 barrows constructed by important wealthy Iron Age Celtic chiefs during the early Roman era in Britain. They are the largest burial mounds north of the Alps. Today, only 4 of the original 7 barrows remain. When I visited the Bartlow Hills in October 2008 with my friends Gilly and Claire, we intuitively felt that they were constructed on a much older pre-Christian site. The energy there was almost palpable, and the poem included here in a separate video entitled Bartlow Hills that Claire was inspired to write following our visit pretty much sums up the magical nature of this site. The Isles of Scilly. Alex and I visited the Isles of Scilly in 2009, and I was delighted to discover that there are more than 50 chambered tombs on these islands. The best preserved examples are all on St Mary's, as seen in these photos. Many ancient Celtic, Gaelic and Arthurian myths and legends speak of lost mythical kingdoms hidden in the mist to the west of the British Isles, such as Lyonesse, which was reputedly located somewhere off the coast between Cornwall and the Scilly Isles. A natural extension of the Michael and Mary line westwards across the sea from Caen le Boel would take you to the Isles of Scilly. Norway. Norway's megalithic sites are not nearly as visitor-friendly as those in the UK, at least not when I lived there. However, Norway does have extensive, well-catalogued records of the topography of the entire country, and each village has its own records containing historical and geographical information dating back centuries. And I used to spend ages combing through these in order to identify sites of interest. I eventually drew up an extensive list of prehistoric sites in Norway, and over the course of the 20 years that I lived there, I managed to visit most of them on my various trips around the country. Many of them are well off the beaten track, and sometimes I would have to thrash my way through dense forests to find what I was looking for. But the upside was that I always had them to myself and could indulge in quiet meditation to my heart's content. Unfortunately, I only have a few rather poor photos of my visits, but at least the ones shown here might provide some idea of the wealth of megalithic sites which exist in Norway, and indeed the whole of Scandinavia. One distinctive type of layout, which I have never seen anywhere else, is the arrangement of stones in the shape of a ship. Norway also has a vast wealth of prehistoric rock carvings called helleristninger, depicting people, animals, objects, and geometrical or more abstract symbols. They are found all over the country, and the oldest rock carvings in Norway are 11,000 years old. The largest and finest collection in Europe is located in Alta in the far north. The earth energies in Norway are very different to those in Britain. They are much harsher and more unforgiving, rather like its climate, although the deep underlying vibration is the same. In Norway, it is possible to find places where you can hear absolutely no sounds of civilization, not even birds or animals. The first time I experienced the complete absence of sound was on a canoe trip along a system of lakes and waterways which extended deep into the wild woods of central Norway. It was a hot, sunny, windless day, and nothing stirred in the woods or on the water. Suddenly realizing that you can hear absolutely nothing, no man-made noises, no animal or bird sounds, no rustling of leaves or trickling of water, is a pretty scary experience the first time it occurs. And then you start to become aware of a deep underlying hum, almost like a low vibration, which I believe is the vibration which underlies all creation. It expands your consciousness in unimaginable ways and is an altogether wonderful, enlightening experience. Megalithic Malta. In December 2018, circumstances conspired to take me to Malta with Steve on a trip for his company. While Steve and his crew were slaving away on their ship for Queen and Country, I spent an amazing few days exploring some of the island's fantastic megalithic sites, which were built between 3600 and 2500 BC. I imagine that these sites were once buzzing with beautiful earth energies, but it seemed to me that whatever they had once had was either dormant or lost. The exception was the Nidra temple. The Tarshin temples. These ancient monuments are covered by a giant awning to protect them from the elements. Nidra temple, my favorite. This has solar and lunar alignments at the equinoxes and solstices and a very special gentle energy. During my visit, the energy there had a feminine, lunar feel, while the energy at Hajarim had a more male, solar type of energy. Egypt. I am including a few photos from a trip that Alex and I went on to Egypt in April 2007 for the purpose of making a comparison with Britain's own megalithic sites. Our trip included visiting Cairo, the Giza Plateau, Luxor and the Valley of the Kings, and Abu Simbel. I was very excited about the prospect of finally having the opportunity to visit these famous monuments, but rather like Malta, I was singularly disappointed by what I saw. I couldn't understand why people rave so much about the amazing energy in the Cheops pyramid. To me, it seemed dead, as did most of the other sites I visited. The only exceptions were the Coptic Christian church in Cairo and the step pyramid of Djoser. The hordes of tourists streaming in and out of the pillaged tombs in the Valley of the Kings left me feeling very uncomfortable, even though, by my very presence, I was also complicit in what I felt was disrespectful, rampant tourism. I am sure that the energies in Malta and Egypt are not lost, despite modern encroachments which have probably caused them to pull in their horns and curl up. Nature has the most marvellous ability to bounce back when left to her own devices, and it would not take much to reactivate these beautiful ancient sites. And finally, here is my very own standing stone, Tabitha. Alex and I found her when we were visiting a local supplier of natural landscaping materials in 2016. When we saw her languishing on a pallet in the supplier's yard, we knew we just had to have her. She is made of quartzite and came from a quarry in Turkey. Quartzite, also called milky or snow quartz, is metamorphic rock, a derivative of sandstone. Its metaphysical properties include stabilizing positive changes by anchoring them in the fabric of the body's physical and subtle bodies. When Tabitha first arrived in our garden, she was pretty traumatized after being ripped out from her native home and transported miles to a far-off country. My friend Jilly and I spent a long time tuning into the energies in my garden to locate a suitable spot for her. She has slowly been acclimatizing over the last few years, and together we are slowly but surely linking her into the grid. For more information about this, please see my videos entitled The Grid and The Cave. Please also check out my video called Megalithic Monuments 1,